everybody wants to be able to earn more. Now, let's move on to T. What does T say? Technological. The rise of AI, artificial intelligence, and other sophisticated systems to getting work done has also impacted the companies, the workplaces, the worker, or the average employee. Now, what are some of the fears? You give an assignment to any junior employee. Nowadays, they are even very confident to tell you that, hey, I used ChatGPT, I used Bard, I used any of the other AI tools to be able to provide this solution. But sometimes we come back and say, look, even if you have used those tools, can you not customize it? Can you not critically, represent this thing like an original work whereby you can infuse it with some of your own ideas? And so in the place of work, people are afraid that the ability to think critically, the ability to solve problems among workers are dropping. Why? Because of over-reliance on AI. And then, of course, the death of manual intensity jobs. What do I mean? The jobs that require a lot of physical labor, they are gradually being phased out. Now, phasing them out is creating what? A lot of insecurity. Why are they being phased out? Because those things are being automated. Now, we will say, but technology is going to create many more jobs. The question I want to ask is this. Even when technology has created many more jobs, the people who were doing these manual jobs, do they have the competencies required to do the new jobs that this technology is creating? I mean, just take a stroll to any manufacturing entity in Lagos, in Ogun State, in Kano, in Kaduna, in any part of the world. And I'm not trying to say this to disparage the quality of the manpower there. But many of these guys are formed in their ways. It's very difficult to be able to teach, these dog new tricks. This army of people are not capable of scaling even when more jobs are being created by the same technology. Now, we already have some of these people in our systems. Let me tell you something. I did some work briefly this year with a federal government agency, a regulatory agency, and I was introducing technology. And when one of my senior people in the department approached me, and the question he asked is, sir, if we implement this thing, will it not lead to loss of jobs? This person is a PhD holder. I had to allay his fears to say, don't worry. We will groom people such that they will be able to transcend the movement of all these paper files that you are seeing, and then they can even do more enriching jobs rather than waking up every morning and you are simply happy coming to the work only to be moving paper around. That's technological. Legal. I'm sure it's no longer news in most organizations that data protection is now becoming very, very important. In fact, I saw it on one of our groups when one of our beautiful admins had to call out someone to say, hey, you have asked for a contact. Please do not display the contact on the group here, data protection. So you want to respond to that person privately. And the person came back and said, oh, I apologize. When I saw it, I'm like, damn. These were things we took for granted before. Because once you put it on the group, everybody simply has access to that person's phone number, and then anybody can save it. Anybody needing anything from that company will just be calling this guy, and he'll be wondering, where did you guys get my number from? An infringement of his personal space. Right to work. Many countries off the back of the political scene now are now saying, look, you cannot work. I mean, look at the UK. He has banned the fact that, oh, unless you are coming for a PhD program, you cannot bring your family members around anymore. So the legality of bringing your family members around to accompany you for an undergraduate or a master's program has been removed. Even if you are able to smuggle them in, they cannot work unlike before, when they can be brought in legally and they can also work unhindered. And many more are affecting the way in which our businesses are run today. And please let me tell you this before it skips my mind. If any of your organizations are not compliant with processes of government or with any of the statutory things, please start getting compliant. The nation is gradually moving away from oil revenue to revenue from their companies. So by the time they come and audit you and you are found wanting, I don't want to say it in dangerous terms. You know what I mean by dangerous. So please, HR, be proactive enough to get your people towards doing the right thing. The last one in pestle analysis is the environment. And you will see I've also quoted another controversy in my write-up about the environment. The impact of global warming on money-spinning industries, oil and gas. People are gradually saying, oh, let's move away from oil and gas. Let's move to renewable energy. And the question we need to ask ourselves is this: how renewable is even this renewable energy? Electric vehicles require a lot of felling of trees and mining of scarce earth resources to be able to produce the batteries. So while we may not be flaring gas anymore, we are causing deforestation now, which might lead to desertification, which may lead to global famine, which may lead to an increase in Earth's temperature. So technically, are we not robbing Peter to pay Paul? Maybe some of us have not thought about it this way before. Maybe we need to start pondering about it. Time will tell. The potential changes arising from economic shifts may include budget constraints, may include downsizing pressures across various organizations. In fact, MAN means Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, had published an article yesterday in the papers to say, look, most organizations will downsize off the back of the economic reality, especially manufacturing entities. It's no longer news that even the global multinationals are exiting the country. So, but on the flip side, economic fluctuations can also open doors to new markets, new talent pools, and innovative HR solutions. I'm sure many of us have joined today's call to say, you know what? I want to get that secret recipe that will launch me into 2024 and make me that badass HR guy that my company needs. So that word secret recipe reminded me of a movie. And that movie is called The Kung Fu Panda. I am going to wait a little after playing this to allow you digest it. And so this scene is talking about the secret ingredient. So I'm going to give you an intro to understanding what the secret ingredient is to solving the HR challenges of 2024. So, happy listening. I hope your internet bandwidth is great. Just watch along with me.
Look, it's the Dragon Warrior. Hey, Dad.
Whoa! Good to have you back, son.
Good to be back.
Let's go, Poe. So for our next shop, it's time to face it. The future of noodles is dice-cut vegetables, no longer slices. Also, I was thinking, maybe this time we'll have a kitchen you can actually stand up in. You like that? Paul, I'm sorry things didn't work out. It just wasn't meant to be. Paul, forget everything else. Your destiny still awaits. We are noodle folk. Broth runs deep through our veins.
I don't know, Dad. Honestly, sometimes I can't believe I'm actually your son.
Paul, I think it's time I told you something I should have told you a long time ago.
Okay.
The secret ingredient of my secret ingredient soup.
Oh.
Come here. The secret ingredient is nothing.
Huh?
You heard me. Nothing. There is no secret ingredient.
Wait. It's just plain old noodle soup? You don't add some kind of special sauce or something?
Don't have to. To make something special, you just have to believe it's special.
There is no secret ingredient.
There is no secret anywhere. Woo! See, when we watch these things, I pay attention to everything around me. There's always a lesson to learn from everything. And so when you're looking for the secret ingredient to exceptional human resources performance in HR in 2024, that secret ingredient is you. You. It's you. And what do I mean by it's you? It's your ability to be able to listen to changes in your organization, in your environment, in your workforce dynamics, in everything going on about your organization. And leveraging that knowledge with the respective human resources practices that you are familiar with to bringing about change. So let me allow that to sink in again. The real secret ingredient is you. It's just you. How then do we leverage you to be able to make things happen? Let's go into the diagnostics of 2024 challenges across the globe. Number one, remote and hybrid work management. Number two, skill gap and talent shortages. Number three, employee well-being. I'll talk about them and then we get going. What is the challenge here? COVID came and everybody was all about remote work. And now remote work is now going back to barely 5 to 10% of our total work population. In fact, of that 5 to 10%, a greater chunk of them actually work for offshore countries, which we would also talk about the fact that what? The challenge of talent shortages is now global, because the same people you think you are going to appeal to in Nigeria to come work for you are also being appealed to by other organizations outside the shores of this country. In fact, someone I know yesterday, someone reached out to her on LinkedIn from outside of this country to say, I have an opportunity. I would like you to work for us. And the person responded, interesting. So tell me more about it. The first thing is, which country are you located in? And the person said, Nigeria. Now, the interesting twist to it is that what? There are 3 Nigerian organizations who have already scheduled interviews with this person. So now, at the back of the mind of those ones now, they would think, oh, maybe it is this company that can compete with me for this talent. They do not know that someone outside the shores of this country is already competing for the same talent. Now, that goes into hybrid work. But then these are real challenges. The other side to it is, much as employees will give you all the analysis about how beautiful it is for them to be able to work from home, we also need to understand human beings are social animals. We always want to interact. If you're not a member of the HR Mentorship social group, I bet you need to join. But when you are joining, join with a broad heart, because sometimes I read some things today and I'm like, blood of Zerubbabel. And I just like, I just swallow it and move on. But it's really a never dull moment on that platform. Can you mimic such a platform for your organization to be able to ensure that what? The social lives of your people is not hindered, especially when you know they are working remotely? How then do we develop and implement effective remote work policies and communication strategies? And of course, enhance performance management while people work remotely? It's a challenge. How do we then mitigate infrastructural needs that will ensure that there's never a downtime in the working of the people working remotely? Because today alone, I've done a whole lot, and I invest in solar technology. I'm off grid, and I have had the up NEPA, down NEPA like 6 times today alone, and I can imagine in many other places where they don't have such opportunities. How then do they have to deal with these? But we also need to live with the practicality that you cannot manufacture remotely. People need to be at work. So this is one challenge, and how do you deal with it? Because it's definitely going to be affecting how you are able to get employees to work for your business. Number 2, skills gap and talent shortages. It is not just about people leaving the country now. It is not even about, do I have people applying for my roles? Do they have the right competencies and quality? Because once some experienced guys leave, you are forced to elevate people who probably in their career journey have not built adequate competency, exposure to handling certain roles, but you have to take a chance on them. And how then do you make the most of them? Investing in training and development programs. I was speaking with the MD CEO of a firm yesterday, and he was saying something that, Victor, can you do some pro bono, training for us? We are struggling to stay afloat. We are struggling to be able to do this. And then I was smiling in Arabic to him that I wish I could tell my employees that they can earn pro bono salaries. This is not the time to stop investing in people capabilities, because you need them to be able to come with ingenious solutions to all of your problems. So you're going to face all of that. And the intensity with which it hits you is going to depend on the peculiarity of your own organization. Number 3, employee well-being. What do we mean by employee well-being? Many organizations have experienced the fact that 3, 4, 5 people have left in their department and their roles have not been backfilled. As a result of that, we're going to be having people suffering from burnout repeatedly. There are so many mental health issues also happening now because people are having to deal with so many things at the same time. How then do you prioritize and manage your employee well-being? The opportunity there is for you to implement well-being programs. We've talked about flexible work arrangements and various other initiatives that foster a positive and supportive workplace culture. Do you know that there are some people who are amongst your employees, their spouses have jackpot already? And they, for our non-Nigerian audience, jackpot means their spouses have emigrated to other countries. And so they are waiting to join their spouse. And so that guy is saying, let me settle down and then I'll send for you guys. And that let me settle down has gone from 1 month to 2 months to 3 months to 4 months to 5 months to 6 months, counting 7 months. And it is this lady alone or this guy alone now who is dealing with 2, 3 children all by himself or herself alone. Yeah, it's not the company's fault. In fact, the company is still going to be a victim when he or she eventually decides to go meet the spouse. So why is that the company's fault? But guess what? It's going to tell on performance. Because what used to be the responsibility of 2 people is now solely his. And he has to deal with all of those things. And I saw something, a funny meme on social media today, and they showed, you know, he said, never offend a parent that just paid school fees, that any small thing can get them agitated now. Remember, they've all just paid school fees now. So they are very, very irritated right now, and they're very irritable. And so the slightest thing you do to them, they can just explode on you because a huge chunk of money has left their pockets. Now, paying that one, they've also paid their tenancy for the year also. So that's another thing, your employee well-being. Now, I can't begin to tell you what the various issues will be. And that's why I said the secret recipe is yourself. By what? Pay attention to your company-specific issues. Have you been hit by such? Even those of you who are human resources professionals in schools, you are also being hit because all these countries are now attracting some of your people away, and then ultimately also, they are also going with their children. School owners are now forced to plan on 40 pupils down from 85, 100, 120 pupils. Now, they can't just fire all their teachers, so they have to come up with survival strategies, which would also impact on the employees. All of these, as human resources professionals, you need to start thinking about the way out, paying attention. Moving on quickly because of our time, because I'm going to give you some time to also ask questions. I've talked about all of these things. I just wanted to, prioritize all of them. And how do you navigate some of the hurdles of remote work? Prioritizing employee well-being, investing in cybersecurity because these people will be working from home and you don't want any of your systems to be hacked. Adaptation of agile HR policies, coming up with policies to support all of these flexibilities, training and development. Continuous learning, we've talked about it. And of course, designing effective reskilling programs. I spoke on 2 radio programs recently, and I said every organization needs to go back to their graduate training program, whereby they create that feeder team for their organization, because you can't sustain the price war of poaching employees from each other anymore. You need to build those people. And once they come on board, you fast track their growth. Almost everybody is now going to be on a hyper potential for you to be able to fill the pool of your middle level management staff that has been thinned out, especially by the mass migration. Then you obviously will have to deal with the sudden career growth plateauing at a particular point in time, because they will have been used to the fact that every year or every other year or every 18 months, I get promoted, because you are accelerating them into roles where you need people to be able to stand in. Then HR is also running against time to conduct training programs. And training programs does not necessarily mean classroom training. It also has to be coaching, mentoring, or also internally, knowledge sharing sessions, brand brag sessions, etc., etc. And your curriculum must align with industry needs. Employee well-being, I've emphasized all of these too. So I'm not going to dwell on these anymore. The other challenges, and I would also expatiate on them too: diversity, equity, and inclusion. Like I said, let me bring it home. And this is a touchy issue most people would rather not talk about. And I'm sure at the back of your minds, especially those of you here in Nigeria, you can begin to mention now. If I mention some banks to you, you will tell me, this one is a whatever ethnic group bank. Oh, that one is the other ethnic group. You can hardly get into senior management position if you are not from, but guess what? All that is being made nonsense of right now. Because really, diversity and equity and inclusion, it's not just because we love to see all of these people. It is simply because they bring differentiated value to the business. It is actually a business opportunity for your organization. And that's why you have to be bold as human resources professionals in 2024 to break those established within your organization, which is usually employee-induced. And how do I mean? I have seen it in the course of my career. Certain HODs will only love to hire certain ethnic personalities in their department. If you are the HR person in such an organization, challenge them. Hello, boss. I'm looking through the DEI for your department, and I found out that you are heavily skewed. Your subsequent recruitment needs to come from other ethnic representation, from other religious representation. We can't close our eyes to such things. It's very, very important for you to begin to do all of these things. Otherwise, all of our DEI will just be in the policy document and then it ends there. But ultimately, what you want to do is to be able to take that advantage. In my Procter & Gamble days, we used to say something. Diversity is leveraging the uniqueness that we all bring to the job, that we all bring on board. And what does that mean? We are able to come up with cosmopolitan ideas or products that are universally acceptable by our diverse audience. We were selling Vicks, and I've used this example a number of times, and it echoes very, very well. Vicks Blue was selling like wildfire down south. It wasn't selling up north. Why? Because the polar bear that was drawn on the wrapper was perceived to be a pig because the people didn't know the animal called polar bear. And for the average northerner who is a Muslim, it's an haram for them to take anything made from pigs because they don't eat the animal. We lost businesses, we lost market share in the north until the research team came back with that finding. Now imagine we had a northern representation in the packaging team. The guy would have spotted that and given us the perspective of his people to say, my people will perceive this thing this way. I would advise we did it the other way. Let's avoid showcasing any animal that can be misconstrued, etc., etc. So there is actually a business case for diversity. A diverse team will always outthink, outperform, out-innovate an homogeneous team every single day and time. Now, like we had during our last session too, diversity is no longer just ethnic representation. Diversity is now talking about what? Multi-generational representation in the workplace. Gen Zs, Gen Zs, Gen Zs. I am not calling you to indulge your Gen Zs. It is the bulk of what I see online. Oh, these Gen Zs, they will not take what we took. We just have to find a way. I am sorry, the Gen Zs also need to shape up. Nobody is the best thing that happens since sliced bread. Everybody brings something to the table. They have their unique strength. They are innovative. They leverage the power of technology. They've got creative skills. But I'm sorry, they do not have tenacity. They do not have the benefit of history. So we need to pull the two together. You are not going to be developing and building your entire organization around Gen Zs and then neglect the older generation. But every generation must have its place within your organization. Diversity, equity, and inclusion issues within the workplace. Because of our time, I need to run. Technology integration. You've got the challenge of integrating technology or leveraging the power of technology to do many things. And that helps you to be able to refine your searches. My subsequent slides dissect all of these points. I always do this. I try to make my slides an idiot's guide to anything, such that even if you did not attend this presentation, you can pick it up on your own, you can read it, and to a large extent, you get 70 to 80% of everything that was taught. So I will still show you those slides, but then bear with me, I might not go through them in details. That's why I'm taking my time on this slide. You can also embrace the power of technology to be able to streamline your HR processes, to be able to come up with analytic insights, and create enhanced employee experiences. But of course, it creates its own challenge, which can be solved earlier on by your talent development programs, because people may not know how to be able to use this. Imagine the organization that is in charge of the BRT buses, the bus rapid transit buses. These categories of employees, I mean, they do not even have technology-enabled phones. How then do you work with them? I mean, two of my clients who work in the manufacturing sector, we've had to get them to create some desktops in different places, and then we had training sessions to tell every employee how you can come in, log in with your unique ID, and then carry out whatever transaction you want to do on the system, since you do not have a phone that you can even use for that purpose. But guess what? We are not going to keep you in the past. We will migrate everybody, but we will find a way to be able to make it work. Global workforce management. Managing a geographically dispersed workforce with diverse cultural considerations. If you've worked for multinational setups, you are sleeping when your colleagues are awake, and they're sending you emails, and sometimes they need a quick response. And then somebody picks up the phone and calls you, and you look at your phone, it's 11:25 p.m. Who, by God's name, is calling me at 11:25 p.m.? And, you know, it's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. It's just 10 a.m. here. I'm really sorry. I didn't think about it. I'm really, really sorry. But would you be kind enough to send me this email? And the person will be like, will you be kind enough to allow me sleep? And when I wake up tomorrow morning, I'll send you that email. Thank you very much. It's sleeping time here. And then you begin to have all of those rough edges around your people. Technology can solve some of these problems. You can come up with strategies to be able to create critical work hours, whereby people across the globe may be able to interface or interact with each other, and then creating some flexibility with respect to when they work. I can remember a session we had for an organization. 2 people joined from Canada, another person joined from the United States. And so when it was 8 a.m., we had to start the training session, I think about 7:30 a.m., and it was about midnight where they were. So I could hear one of the ladies saying, I'm trying not to speak up loud so that I don't wake my family up. But human resources had to change our work time for those 2 days of the training. It was actually a 1 week, but I had a 2-day session with them for that period. And then she slept during her own day. But one of them had to take a 30 minutes time off to prepare her kids for school. So while we were wrapping up the training, I had to tell her she had to take 30 minutes permission to go prepare the children's park and then get them to join the school bus. We had to be sensitive to some of these things. Cross-cultural training about diversity, about cultural perceptions, translations, and interpretation of things. So while the challenge is there, these are your opportunities. Now, the slides that expatiate on them more, you know, you want to address unconscious biases in HR processes. I've talked about some of them. You will need to pay attention to the details. The detail, or they say the devil is in the details. What are some of the strategies for creating an inclusive culture? Leadership commitment is paramount. Training and education of your people. Employee resource groups, whereby they can always get access to valuable insights at every point in time, and then inclusive policies that accommodate the basic needs of your people. Now, the other thing we've not talked about, but it's also in line with what we mentioned about the global workforce compliance, evolving labor laws and compliance. I worked in Angola at some point in time, and at that point in time, I had to travel to Angola. The policy in Angola, I don't know if things have changed now because they now have a new leadership in the country. You either get a 7-day visa or a 1-month visa. But I must never spend the full month in Angola when I had to go. I was supposed to be there for some months, but I always had to fly out of Angola either on the 20th or 22nd day. Because if I worked till the end of the month, the Angolan laws will say my salaries and my taxes must be paid in Angola. Much as I only came in there on what we will have called a short-term residency or an STR, they will insist that everything must be done in Angola. So I will have to fly back at the 20th day, wait for the new month, and then go back again, just so we do not break the law. The only time I could not fly within the timeline of my visa, we could not find a flight for me. A lawyer had to accompany me to the airport. Otherwise, I would have been arrested at the airport for spending longer than my visa stipulated. It was shocking. It was, I mean, it's really, really a tough one at that point in time. So you need to be aware. I've talked about some of these things too with respect to migration of people. So we've got to mitigate every legal risk associated with all of our HR practices, and therefore helping the organization to be able to stay afloat. Because every profit we have made, one compliance pitfall can wipe out the entire organization's profitability. There's a client organization I'm speaking to right now, and it's something as basic as group life insurance. Group life insurance. It's a new organization anyway. And I have to tell them, you've got to comply. And they're like, why? And I'm like, well, it's the law. And part of what the law stipulates is that if any of your employee passes on, you're going to be responsible for 3 times his annual gross pay, and or the directors of the organization would also be imprisoned for 6 months. The choice is yours. But if you're going to be working with my organization, it's important that I protect you. So whatever the rules are, you need to comply. This is the basic thing you need to do. These are the things we ought to have been doing over the years. It is simply staying in tune with the laws. Part of the proposal of the Oyedele, the Tax Reform Committee, was to be able to increase the non-taxable salary income level from 30,000 naira to 50,000 naira. I am still following up on that, because if that is ever passed as part of the Finance Act 2024, it will impact our computation of taxes, and certain employee categories will no longer be eligible to paying taxes. Are you following up too? Are you following up with all of those too? Those are some of the things you need to pay attention to. It's not just sitting down and business as usual. So many things will change within our space in 2024. We've talked about talent shortage and the war for talent. What are the ways in which you can attract talent? Employer branding, leveraging various digital platforms, offering competitive compensation and packages. C&B design may be important for every HR professional in 2024. Because you see those salaries, something needs to be done about them. And this may be the time whereby company product packs may come in handy. I mean, we all have those rough and dented cartons that we sell at, what do they call this thing? International trade fair markets. Maybe this may be the time whereby you can make those things available to your employees to be able to reduce what they are spending their money to buy of in the streets. Quite important. So, agile HR practices that also allows you to be able to respond swiftly to changing market dynamics. And we cannot be bogged down by bureaucracy anymore. I want to move on quickly now. Our time is fast spent. HR analytics and data-driven decision-making. I spoke about that in this slide. where I talked about technology too. You are able to make decisions that are following patterns. And when I teach HR analytics, it's not so much as to your use of Excel or even the software, because many organizations actually have these softwares, your Power BI and the rest of them. But it's actually about your ability to be able to think critically about differing things. So we have resumed back now. What percentage of my employees resumed back with us in January relative to last year, relative to 2 years ago? Now, some of my employees who have left as a result of this mass migration, they belong to which age group? Probably they also belong to a particular ethnic group. Probably how can I define the demographics of these people such that it helps me to be able to make better recruitment decisions going forward? Because the best way to predict future performance is also to look at previous performances. And some of these things can come in your analysis. Now, if I want the future to be different from the past, I have to create that future. And so therefore, I need to start doing certain things now to be able to arrive at the future I'm looking forward to. But it can only come through my deductive thinking, understanding emerging trends, to be able to arrive at taking the right kind of decision. And this is another important one, your leadership development and succession planning. If you never had one before, or you had one on paper, this is the time for you to dust it out and actually start implementing it. Because you're still going to have a lot of scarcity and dearth of people in leadership, because of the high mobility of labor, especially outside of our organization now. And with the whole nationalization awareness or awakeness we are beginning to see in the country, leveraging on foreign offshore workers might also become less attractive unless they are working remotely. So a lot of dynamics will come up. The peculiarity for your organization is separate and different. And so how you adapt and how you leverage it is also going to be dependent on those things. What are the challenges and considerations here? Identify potential leaders and align them to the strategic goals of the organization so as to be able to drive them forward. Now, what are the opportunities available to us from all of these problems? Now, the problems are not exhaustive. I've only picked some of the select ones that are quite unique to virtually every organization. There may be some other endemic challenges that are industry specific. If we had an industry specific conversation, we can speak to that industry. But generally, this touches every one of us. What are the opportunities? Cost-saving initiatives. How can you as human resources come up with what? Opportunities for the organization to be able to optimize their cost. We are not talking about robbing off people. We are not talking about cutting into the bone and marrows. But if you look into your systems, you want to eliminate the fats. You want to enhance decision-making, which of course your IT tools and paying attention to trends will help you, and thereby increasing your employee experience. What are the list of opportunities for us? Technology adoption, I've mentioned that too. Leveraging technology can improve efficiency, personalize employee experiences, and enhance decision-making. Data-driven HR. Data-driven HR can reveal valuable insights about what truly motivates your employees. What are the skill gaps that exist in your organization? And when you are thinking skill gaps, you are not talking about skills required for the people to function in their current roles only, but also for future roles. And the people currently occupying those future roles, what sphere of life are they on? Nearing retirement? If you study the trend right now, the new trend of CEOs being appointed now are in their mid-40s. Because the current trend, the current crop, or do I say the outgoing crop, are actually close to 60 now. Seldom is any organization looking into the 50s to hire their new CEOs because they want people who will be there long term. And they want people who is what? Not too far away from the crop of workforce, but also not too also far away on the other side from the senior generation. They are coming into the 40s. How are you grooming your younger generation such that they have all the competencies required to be able to stand and steer an organization or a business going forward? Or how are you, even as the HR professional, positioning yourself such that you can be the potential next in line to be the CEO of your organization? Or you think it's impossible? Hell no. It's very possible. If you demonstrate enough knowledge of the business of your business, then you stand a chance of being able to take on the leadership of the organization. Next thing is human-centered approach. Technology plays a crucial role, but the human element remains vital. You cannot take away empathy from the place of work. You cannot take away relationship from the place of work. You can have all the tools, all the resources, but the human element, which is what we call the engine oil, the culture of the place, does not gel, nothing will work out fine. So, are you ensuring that the human element of your workplace still thrives? The next is strategic partnering. What is strategic partnering all about? It's all about you helping to be able to be what? The advocate of the business while leveraging the people to achieving that overall business success. It's just like the HR business partner title. Many people ask, what's the job of the HR business partner? HR business partners are usually associated with a particular department or business division, whereby they are rendering specific or bespoke HR services to that department or business. And in my Procter & Gamble days, what they will tell you is what? You need to come out of HR, go and work in that department or division in another department, understand what is going on in that space, and then you can come back and wear your HR hat. Now you've understood the business. How then do you make the people in the business perform at their peak? Because you've been in their shoes, actually. And then the last but not the least there is social impact and employer branding. Organization with a strong social mission and clear values can attract and retain their talent. So HR professionals are usually neck deep into CSR initiatives. Much as I know several organizations have some of their CSR initiatives attached to their corporate communication function, but the people element participating in all of these initiatives makes all the difference. It boosts your employer brand, and it's attracting socially conscious employees who will also make good community relations individual overall. I've got 5 more minutes, but I'm going to say it again. The secret ingredients to successfully navigating all HR challenges in 2024 is you. Paying attention to what is going on in your environment, upping your ante in the world of knowledge in HR practices, and mixing your knowledge and your expertise, using them to respond to every impulse felt in the organization vis-a-vis the business, vis-a-vis the country, will make you a successful HR partner for your organization come 2024. On that note, I want to say thank you very much for listening to me. My target deliverable was an hour, and I think I've been able to do it in 55 minutes. So I'm going to open the floor for questions so we can attempt to help you with whatever question or concern you may have. And I guess we may go a little beyond 1 hour to be able to accommodate the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adebayo, for that exciting, insightful session. If you'd like to ask any question, you need clarifications, or perhaps you want to quickly contribute 1 or 2 things, add value to this conversation, please do raise your hand so that we can recognize you and give you the floor. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you so much, Mr. Victor Adebayo. All right, I'm still checking to see if we have any hands, or if you prefer to type your questions quickly and briefly, Mr. Victor Adebayo will be glad to take it. I'm seeing a lot of accolades in the chat box. People sending their appreciation for the impactful session. We're also very happy to call it a wrap so that we can rest. So let me just ask quickly, in an official capacity, how can your organization help people? What services can you render? I know it's not pro bono, you've already mentioned that.
So our organization actually focuses on these lines of business here. Manpower outsourcing, which most people call contract staff, but we don't call them contract staff. They are experts in their own area and they can build a career in their work. Recruitment services, learning and development services. This year, we are thinking of exploring open courses. What we used to do was in-house implants. Then HR strategy sessions. I mean, we have tons of clients in the finances and FMCG industry specifically. But of course, we're also expanding to other industries, helping them to be able to run their strategy session. And then what we call the business process outsourcing. It's especially for new organizations, they don't have an HR department. So our own staff are their HR employees. They literally run the HR department from there. And, you know, just like you would outsource your security to a security company, they outsource their entire human resources operations to us. And then our staff work from their premises 24/7 to be able to deliver on all of their HR needs. So those are our core areas of services. Thank you very much for the free adverts.
All right, absolutely a privilege and pleasure. Of course, Diversity Talent Management Limited, their phone number and email is also on the screen, and you can always check them out via their website. So while we are using that to fill time, I saw a question on, I think, if I'm not mistaken, on cultural transformation. Yes, from Monisola Oyelaja. And she says, talking about cultural transformation in organizations, what are two top things that can lead to significant cultural transformation?
It's difficult for you to be able to say what are the two top things that can lead to significant cultural transformation if you have not conducted the diagnostics. I was smiling because maybe I should not say this now. We just signed 2 contracts actually with some organizations for cultural transformation in their businesses. And as I saw this, I was like, wow, I wish I could just bring out my slides and show you guys what we want to do for them. Now, it all came off the back of a team bonding session. And then we talked about cultural transformation. We talked about various types of cultures within the organization. The CEO was impressed. It was supposed to be a 1-hour session. We ended up spending about 4 hours dissecting the organization culture. And so he then said, you know what, let's do a proper diagnostics of our culture. And I need you guys to come in and help us deliver on this. So I cannot just give you a top 2 off the back of my mind without conducting proper diagnostics for your organization. But the most important thing about organization culture is this. When you want to feel the pulse of the organization, do your employees, are they happy coming to work? Do they find fulfillment in the job they do? And does the fulfillment of your employees translate to productivity in the workplace? I think the later 2 will fall into the category of the top 2. Do your employees find fulfillment at work? Because it speaks to the overall culture within the workplace. And the significant side is this. We are not just creating the happy place because we are a nanny. We are creating the happy place because we have a business we want to run. Is that happy environment leading to productivity? If you have a happy environment and there's no productivity, it's a messed up organization. If you're having productivity but not a happy environment, it is not a sustainable environment. So those 2 things must work hand in hand for you to be able to build an organization that would last. But like I said, that's just a rule of thumb thing. The first thing is you need to conduct a proper culture diagnostics, and then you can then begin to prioritize the various interventions that you would run in such a business to be able to work with you. Now, this is not for the sake of advertising our company or any other businesses for that matter. It's not the best for you as an HR professional to try and lead the culture revamp project or process within the company where you are working in. It is always best you get external help, because working on that, number one, will distract you from your every day-to-day activity. That is one truth. Then the second thing is this. It's easier for people to listen to a counselor outside there than for you to counsel your spouse. You know that see-finish mentality is there also in every organization. No matter how sound you are, even in my days in the investment bank, much as I know I could run the culture thing, we had to get external help. And I only worked with them to be able to ensure that we were not hiding anything. I gave it to them as real as it was, and I worked with them towards the deliverable of those things. But seeing external people could trust them, could, relate with them confidential information that cannot be tracked back to them. But if it was I who was running it, I mean, they know that, oh, this person will be able to identify that this comment came from me, so I don't want to be identified. So those are the two top things I can share in that space. Yes, Chineke, your hand is up.
And Victor, while we allow Tinuke to speak, just go through the chat so that we can respond to all the questions after Tinuke. You have the floor, Tinuke. Good evening.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Victor. Good to hear from you. It's been a long while. I'd like to touch on talent acquisition and retention. It might be good for HR executives to redefine retention in the context of the world we are now. When you say you retain talent, what does it really mean? Is it keeping the person for up to 5 years? Is it keeping the person for up to 10 years? Why I'm saying this is, in recent times, I've seen dynamics within organizations where strategic roles become open, and they look at their bench strength and they think, you know what, we need somebody who sees things differently. We need somebody who thinks differently. We need somebody who has seen some things we don't see. And that bench strength is neglected, and they go hire from outside. So in the context of retention, what does success look like? I like to hear your experience.
I was typing something because I wanted everybody also to see it, and then the benefit of reading it. I had this conversation with about 4 different MDs, and I said, employee retention is no longer about 5 years anniversary, 10 years anniversary, 15 years anniversary. It's about keeping an employee happy and motivated and productive throughout the period of time that he chooses to stay with you. Simple and short. That they choose to leave is no longer about what you as a business has done or has not done. Now, the caveat to that does not then mean we completely abandon employee value proposition or employee motivation. No. We are saying, haven't done all. When people want to leave, they will still leave. You may be the best organization in terms of employee, wellness programs, blah, blah, blah. You pay very well. I mean, when the guy says, you know what, Canada is next, he goes to Canada. But what we are saying is, you do your best to ensure that they do not leave the organization for factors that you can deal with as HR, which is creating the right environment for them, while at that same time, you are maximizing productivity from them. Now, productivity comes in 2 parts. The first aspect is the fact that they deliver on their own job. The second aspect is the fact that they are able to produce their potential successors. And that is the only way you can track your retainership or employee retention in the organization now. It's no longer just about the number of years that they spend in your business. I've just told you now, most CEOs are coming from their 40s. I mean, when I was in Airtel and we had an employee session and they were asking the question, oh, I've been on this role for about 4 or 5 years. When am I going to get a promotion? So I turned the question back to all of them. Yes, I'm director, HR, HSC, security, admin. Where do I get promoted to? And then my people busted into laughter on the call. It was a company-wide call. We had about 500 people on the call. They all started laughing. I'm like, don't you think I have career plans too? I do. I do not want to remain at that level forever. So when I saw the next opportunity to be a chief operations officer, I moved. So it's not about, do they pay me well? Do they not pay me well? It's not about so much about several other things. It's also about my own growth. At every point in time, Procter & Gamble appoints their global CEO. 3, 4, 5 other people leave the organization because it is from that pool that they pick to one person. The rest of them will become CEOs of other organizations. Is it about what the company did not do? No. But what you want to ensure is the employee is happy and motivated. He's productive by delivering on his KPIs and also producing a potential successor. That's the best way to measure your employee retainership now. I hope that was useful, Tinuke. Yeah, I can see your write-up. Extracting maximum value within the time that they stay. Well said. Very well said. I think there are some other questions here. I'm trying to scroll up. What do you do when your employer doesn't believe in staff welfare or employees' well-being, alluding that the employees are not bringing enough business and therefore should not expect anything? And this is severely impacting the workplace as the attrition is so high. These are very specific and unique questions, and I can't give you an answer that will specifically deal with this situation because we need to know the diagnostics. What are the issues? The question you always ask is this: which one comes first, the chicken or the egg? I motivate my people and they generate reward and they generate results, or from the result they generate, I use it to motivate them. Which one comes first? It all depends on what the real issues are within the organization. But there are certain things that can be dealt with that is not in the line of compensation and benefits. It's about how your managers talk to you. I mean, I had a lady recently who told me, where she was coming from, unfortunately also within the HR industry, that her HR director was called a witch. And, he said this person is so toxic and the way she treats her people. And she went on and on and on. And here they are working in an environment whereby they are happy coming to work. They can open the door and say, boss, this. And the interest is to be able to guide them to doing the thing rather than, insulting or abusing them that at this stage you can't think. So you don't even really know this. Those are not associated with rewards or benefit. It's about the dignity you give to your people at work. And that's why you see some people who will choose to work in a place that does not pay them so much, but there's dignity to their personality. They're moving to places that pay so much, and their personality is trampled upon every single day. So those diagnostics are necessary. So workplace improvement is not always rewards and recognition. It's also about how do you treat the most lowly person within the workplace? Does he get dignity of labor working for you there? I mean, many of the organizations I've worked in, I would like to use the driver's restroom. And many times they tell me, oh, God, don't go there. I'm like, the way we treat the driver's restroom simply talks about the way we value them, the way we see them. Can we create everything and make it look nice? I worked on a project recently where we had to create leave allowance, 13th month, and we called something severance package for cleaners. And we took the cost. We ensured that their pension was also remitted. Every other statutory payment was also done. And I mean, these cleaners bought me I think it was a 5 kg bag of rice as a show of appreciation. It is not about the gift. As in, one of them came to my office and the kind of prayers, I felt like my mother was praying for me. You can see this lady, she was praying from the depth of her heart. She was really praying for me. I could not stop her because I did prayers so this 2024. I needed all the prayers I could get. So it may not necessarily be the money, but the fact that we can also recognize them. I think that works. The next question quickly because of our time. Franca says, how do you convince management to organize training for staff, especially when it involves the company paying for it? Now, all trainings does not have to come with the company paying for it. Fact. I always start academies in every organization I've worked in. You can start an academy in your organization, and how do you start it? The first thing is start a campaign to identify volunteers and tell them, you know you are good at something. Maybe it's Microsoft Excel, and you know you can teach it. Or maybe it is, you know, how to be able to balance accounts. Or maybe it is about negotiation with customers, how to negotiate, you know, like a pro. Or maybe it is emotional intelligence. You have even done some of these things before. We are starting a faculty. We are starting a diversity talent academy. And so we are looking for volunteers. But guess what? There are juicy rewards for the volunteers. The juicy rewards may be a shopping voucher, 25,000 naira at the end of the year. It may be a 5 extra points during the performance appraisal evaluation. It may be a paid vacation. It may be a gym membership that you are giving to them. And these guys, you draw out a timetable for them. You work with them to be able to help them perfect their slides. They do a debriefing session. You bring in an external person to come and do a train-the-trainer training for them so that they know how to communicate what they know and how to be able to make others understand. So you are only paying for that one external one, and the rest of the training can be done in-house. Now, should I have taught you that? Because it will impact my own business. That's on a lighter note, but frankly speaking, it doesn't always have to involve paying people outside there. There's so much potential in every organization, but we've not paid attention to exploring it. There may be one guy who understands a particular machine that once that machine breaks down, everybody is looking for Jude. Everybody is looking for Jude. Can you put a session together when Jude will be able to communicate what he knows? And he can say, when the machine sounds like this, the guy may not even communicate it in Queen's English or my own kind of English, Nigerian English. You see, when the machine, they do grek, 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 grek. Now this one. This belt done the cut. Now in they make and do grek, grek, grek. But when the machine, they sound, now this bolt, they cause up. Just help him package it, and he can articulate it to the people. Training is happening. There's also on-the-job training, where line managers must show their employees how to do certain things. Because people hoard knowledge because they think, once I teach everybody all I know, then they can easily do away with me, and then they will promote somebody at a junior level, give him half my salary, and he will continue doing the job. So the way they can only preserve themselves is by ensuring that those things are kept to themselves only. Well, I don't know what happens in your organization, but I think you don't also want to die young, because it means you'll be doing a whole lot yourself. So at least, even if you want to face it, be releasing the knowledge, even if it is one per year, just release one a year so that other people can relieve you of the work before you start losing your hair like my own. So from there, you can start. The last one is when you are doing your budgeting, don't just show them, oh, 50 million training budget. Don't ever do that. They will shout, they will scream. I sit and dine with these people. They will shout, where do you see the money? Just put it there, 10,000 naira per employee per year. You know you have 2,000 employees. You have 500 employees. By the time you do 10,000 times 500, you know how much it comes to. But does it mean that you are going to use that 10,000? Some of the classes, you have 30 people in a class. You may not necessarily approach a training institution to come and train your people. You may look for a subject matter expert, internal or external, whom you will pay directly to come and run that training. From there, as you also watch the fortunes of the organization increase, then you can also increase that value from 10,000 to 20 to 50 and on and on, and other training that you have not captured before, or other aspects of training, which may include, seminars and conferences. You can then begin to introduce them gradually. I hope that helps you, Franca. I think Adeni, I've talked about how you can carry out culture fit test. And there are so many tools available online. You can Google them up, and they will give you the various questionnaire to set, and then the yardsticks to be able to measure them and how to be able to interpret the results. But like I said, engage an external partner to help you in that space. Victoria says our company have staff that don't rest round the clock due to their job description, and I feel for them due to, it's not only their mental health or their physical health. There are people walking on the road and then they just drop and fall. the first thing you want to do is introduce this BP monitor. Bring it into the office. Talk to them about the labor law. Nobody should work 24/7. It's 8 hours work. And for those who do 12 hours, 2 shifts, they pay them consistent overtime, but they cannot continue to do that. They must take some time off. Leave days. Come with the BP monitor machine and take the BP of all your people in your organization. I am sure you'll find no less than 10 with very high BP. It's not until somebody collapses and falls and then you people start running up and down. Bikonu, Mbo, I beg you in God's name, just start from that one alone, and then you'll be able to move on from there. Let me see. Is there anything else? Thank you so much, potential. You say, Brother Jude. He said, my PG said na training. Now so we run them now. I mean, I was asked to come and do a training in Port Harcourt, and I sized my audience. I found out that my init wasn't working. I just switched to Pidgin. Though my slide was in English, but my delivery was in Pidgin throughout. And that was when the class became lively, and everybody was like, hey, now you they talk. All those init where they talk before, no be have. And we had a very good time. So read the room. If you are speaking English and they are not contributing, add some Pidgin into it, then you begin to see them. If you know that these people, they are largely Ibibio people, go and pick 1 or 2 words in Ibibio, fire it in the class. If they are Yoruba people, bring 1 or 2 words, fire it in class. That way you engage them. Because, I mean, our attention span as we grow older is reducing by the day. So it's adult education. That's the way to be able to make the class dynamic. One last question. Oh, okay, it's not a question, it's a comment. He said, I'm new in the HR industry, but from this session, I was very, very enlightened. Thank you very much for that feedback. Mr. Luyemi, back to you. I think we've done justice to the questions. Hamed. Okay, quickly, go ahead. Ask a question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Victor. And mine is actually not a question. First,
Okay.
of course, is to commend you for the knowledge sharing.
I'd like you to say something. Yeah.
Thank you, Yemi. So I was just thanking Victor for the very impressive session and the knowledge shared. And I would just like to quickly add that some of the things that you have said are things that are playing out very much in the workplace now. Employee well-being, I think, for every organization is something that should be on the front burner. In recent times, we've had instances where we have hired employees who do 8 to 5, the normal 8 hours like work, and you have supervisors or line managers saying, I'll probably like you to stay at work, we need to stay at work till 7, or you need to come to work on Saturday. And you have employees reaching out to their HRBPs to say, look, my line manager is asking me to work beyond 5 o'clock. So he's asking me to come to work on Saturday. And the HRBP says, oh, okay, I expect that they'll pay you some overtime. The response we got was, look, I'm not interested in the overtime. I'm actually interested in having my time to myself. Work-life balance.
Absolutely.
And employees are ready to drop the job so they can maintain, their sanity. Even in organizations where you have systemic overtime. People are pushing back now to say, look, I like to have my time. The work environment. We all agreed the gig economy is on us. People who do 8 to 5 now probably want to use 6 to 9 to do some other things of their own. We call it side hustle or whatever it is we choose to call it, or use their Saturdays, to catch on their side hustles and make some money. So as employers, as line managers, as HR managers, I think we are the ones who must continue to educate our employers, and our leaders, on the fact that talent does have option now. you know, and no matter how hard you try, now you are not able to force any talent, you know, to continue to work for you, unless they are sure that, of course, their well-being is paramount, you know, as part of the strategy for growth, you know, in the organization which they work for. Thank you very much once again, Victor, and thank you, Emi, for allowing me to make this intervention.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you a lot.
Any closing remarks, Victor, so that we can say the grace?
Well, my closing remark is just going to be the secret recipe remains you. So be you, grow you, develop you, listen to your environment, and only you can make the difference where you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Victor. I really, really appreciate you on behalf of the over 100 people who joined tonight and the several hundreds that will watch the recorded version at their convenience. Thank you so much. We pray that God will bless you, keep you, and guide you. Ladies and gentlemen, we call it a wrap. Have a prosperous 2024. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.